From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. And welcome back, Grouchers and Brainstormers. Episode 23. What you think about that, Jill?
I think that's pretty damn good.
And it's one more than episode 22.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's one more than 22. And it's 22 more than I thought I would be on. So.
we try to keep Matt's his math skills right there at par with the calculus that he practiced in
A lot of calculus in my past.
junior college in Mississippi.
That's right.
No, do they even have?
No, I had junior high in Mississippi. What I had.
Well, same thing.
6 long years.
All right. So, you definitely earned that degree. Puberty had you, didn't it?
It had me. It was a bad time.
Yeah, which explains why we're hosting a podcast on recovery.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it had a lot to do with it. So enough of the victim status, Matt. So episode 23, and in light of a lot of the things that have happened recently with a lot of us, and a lot of us, me and Matt, I know for sure. I'm not sure about Jill. And I forgot to make introductions. Did I make introductions?
No.
Well, let's.
Yeah.
I'm not starting over, so we'll just start from here.
Okay.
So I'm Mike, and I'm here today with Jill,
Hey, guys.
Matt,
Hey.
and Monica.
Hey.
And Monica's a special guest today, so it just happens to be Jill's sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's a little giddy about that, but just messing with Jill.
Mike and I have lots of questions for her about being Jill's sponsor. You know, going to put her through the ringer.
So I think as we go around the room, what we'll do is, and you don't, nobody's obligated to talk about anything, but the subject today, in light of recent events that's going on, for me anyway, what would help as a newcomer and even as someone that's been around for a little while as myself, I think that life on life's terms is a topic that I would like to discuss. We did steps 8 and 9. I'm sorry, we did not do steps 8 and 9. I don't want to lead off into steps 8 and 9 without covering some of the basics that, I learned coming into the program. This is definitely not my program. This is AA's program. But some of the basics that I learned coming in was, number one, was 1 day at a time. That was one of the first things I learned. Get a sponsor, do the steps 1 day at a time. And then there's a lot of slogans written on the wall. But some of the things I heard was life on life's terms. And I didn't realize before coming that I had a problem with life on life's terms. I just couldn't take life on life's terms. I didn't even realize that was a thing, but apparently it is. And I've, over the course of my sobriety, obviously things just didn't get perfect after I got sober. Mm-hmm. Matt, like when you graduated from the 8th grade after 6 years, I can imagine you were expecting this huge paycheck, being 23 years old and getting out of the 8th grade. I would imagine you had some big aspirations in life, and things just didn't turn out that way. And, I guess for a first example, I'm just going to throw this out there for the group. But a week ago today, it's like exactly 168 hours ago, 9:45 a.m. on a Sunday morning, I was at work, and life was okay. Everything was just okay, right? Nothing going on, moving. You got your moving and getting adjusted to a new crowd. I recently moved to the Fort Worth area, and by the end of the day, life had changed completely for me and my family, right? And that was my thought process is going with, we never know what's going to happen, but it does. It happens. And I had to make a shift somewhere there during the day, maybe not all at once, but somewhere during the day I had to make a shift in my thought process. And my thought process after this, my grandson was feeling ill. They took him to the doctor, And then the doctor said, take him to the ER, or the quick care said, take him to the ER. He went to the ER, and come to find out he's a type 1 diabetic, and he's going to end up having to take insulin or have an insulin pump for the rest of his life, and, put him in ICU, and, and they're in the process of moving to Dallas during all this and trying to find doctors in Dallas. And I think what I was most impressed with was my son and the way my son handled it, because I don't know how I would have handled it being a 26-year-old young man and having a kid that was just having, now has to have constant attention, at least for the first 6 months is going to have constant attention. But, by the end of the day, I was really confused. But at some point there was some gratitude that set in, because it could have been a lot worse. Things can happen that are just a lot worse. And this is something that is part of life. And now it's part of my life. And it wasn't going into last Sunday. So at the end of the day, I had to look at it as, hey, this is life. No matter what, I got to stay sober, or I'm not going to be able to help at all. I'm not going to be any good to anybody. And number two, what do we need to do to make these adjustments to this curveball that life just threw us, And that's just one of many things that have happened this week. We buried a current member of our group, one of our groups this week, and a former member of our group passed away on Friday and will be buried tomorrow, who she just happens to be the best friend of my ex-wife. And 6 months ago, she was no different than me or you, so just life on life's terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It, I'm glad today. I was at a treatment center last night, and we talked about this, and where Alcoholics Anonymous has helped me is to just take things for what they are. And my first instinct anymore is not to run from it and drink or use, and just to sometimes you do have to stop. It's not like you just, a unicorn flies by when you get bad news, and you never, you don't have that feeling of, oh, this is bad or not good right now. But it's taught me ways to stop, evaluate what's going on, come up with the best solution without it just destroying and like domino affecting everything else that I have going on. So that's kind of the best way I can put it. I mean, yeah, the guy that we lost, I think you sent me that mic, and I sat there that morning. It bothered me, and I sat there for several hours and just sat in my chair and thought about it and kind of beat it around and mulled it over, and then got up. By the afternoon, it was what it was, and so you just have to deal with things as they come up, and a lot of prayer always, no matter what. And I'll throw this in there. So talking about the fun week everybody's had. So I go Monday morning, 2 Monday mornings ago, go into work, got a text from the owner, hey, want you to come in a little bit early Monday morning. I go in, get fired Monday morning before the day even starts.
Well, it's best they did it before the day started.
Well, because I'd have been mad if I worked all day, dude. That's wrong. That's un-American. But what do you do? I mean, it was kind of something that was coming one way or another, whether I resigned or that happened. But not the end of the world. Matter of fact, I think I had a fishing pole in my truck, so I just went to my truck, went fishing, watched the sun come up, prayed about it a little bit, and by 9 or 10 o'clock that morning, I was just ready to roll on with what I'm doing, So, prime
example right there. Yeah. Living life on life's terms.
Yeah, and I mean, we just do. And I mean, we come on here and I'm not an expert on anything, but I can promise you I have as much a hot mess going on as anybody does. And I'm as honest as I can be about it. And just letting you guys know how we deal with stuff as it comes up. And, I really was by 9 o'clock. I could not have been less worried about it, and still am not. And, we just roll on. And I think it's God's way of opening another door, and that's a way to look at it is not a failure. But God steering me in a different direction. And I'm pretty hard headed on stuff. And I'd been getting signals all throughout this year that, hey, this is not your deal. This is not the future for you. And me being stubborn and hard headed, I can make this work. That's what I'm doing in my head. I can overcome all this. I can deal with it. In the meantime, I've been miserable the whole year. It's just work wise has been horrible. And God sometimes has to use extremes to get my attention. Well, he got my attention. So, hey, I'm paying attention now. So
yeah,
I'm good.
When I think about life on life's terms, when I was first introduced to that, group of words, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, what the hell does
group of words, otherwwise known as a phrase. Even Matt, in his highest level of education.
Hey, don't mess with the brain fog,
I drove
okay?
to junior high, okay? I could vote in junior high.
So anyway, yes, this phrase, I remember people saying that. I'm like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because I have never in my life lived on life's terms. I was never in acceptance of anything. My thought process was always a cognitive distortion. It was a false and irrational thought, because things shouldn't be this way and they should be this way. And I never was happy with anything. My expectations were too high. And so I stayed in conflict always. And so having to change that into, hey, everything's going to be all right. And it just was really difficult for me. And I think those first, 5 years was me struggling, trying to get into acceptance and trying to really understand and live that living life on life's terms. It was rather difficult. I had to, retrain my thoughts. I had to lower my expectations. I had to change everything, because that way of thinking is the kind of thoughts that kept me drunk and kept me high. And what it meant to me in early recovery, which was impossible. I like, how are you not supposed to think that everything's a complete shit show and things are not going to get better and all of that, to what it means to me now, which is peace. I have faith now. I have trust in the way things happen and the way things, go in my life. Unlike what I did in my early sobriety. And I think it just came down to, through working the steps and finding a higher power, finding something to trust, and realizing that everything's going to happen just the way it's supposed to, without me being all up in it or any of that. It is profound, the differences between what I thought and what I know now. And it's given me complete confidence and just a really good sense of balance. And that's what I need in my life, because I feel like for so many years, even in recovery, I thought I was in opposition of so many things, because it wasn't supposed to be this way. And I shouldn't be making $8 an hour emptying trash cans, whatever I thought it should have been, because I really, seriously, I thought when you got sober, like all these grand things would happen and I'd either be, pretty soon a millionaire, and all my wildest dreams would have come true. And you know what? None of them did. So guess what? I got pissed. I was resentful. I hated everything. And why is my life, why am I doing, what's the point of all of this? And I just stayed in those negative thoughts. But looking back on it, I can see how the puzzle pieces were all being aligned, and how that job led to what I'm doing now, and how it led to the next job. But when I look back on all those years of my life of fighting and being in opposition, I just, like I said, I wasn't in acceptance. I didn't realize there was a trajectory that was meant to be, that was already in place, and that was setting me up for my future. And so I trust that now, and I know that now, and it is easy to live life like that because I trust it, and that's just the fight, the opposition, all of that is not worth it to me anymore because it drains me physically, it drains me mentally, emotionally, and it's exhausting. And ultimately what I had to do was just surrender and say, I don't know what's best for me. Just sit back and let things happen and let things roll just the way they're supposed to. There's a lot of freedom to doing that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, thank God for AA, because I know when I first got here, those were just words, and I could not.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. I couldn't understand it, and I tried. I tried to intellectually understand it. It's just not going to work. You know, I just couldn't get my mind around it, and that's when I just knew that I had to quit doing the stuff I was doing because I was going to die. So that's when AA stepped in, and that's when those people just baby fed me and just don't look at that stuff. Just do this, just do this, just do this. Like acceptance. What do you mean? I will accept it when it's my way. That's not acceptance. Yeah. You know, I just couldn't, I didn't understand. I thought that you run from all things that hurt, that, you know, there is no touchstone of spiritual, none of that stuff. It took several years and some steps for all of those words to come together. And, you know, we're talking about one day at a time or living life on life. It's all the same. Like all I can hear in all this is acceptance. Mm-hmm. Until I have some acceptance, until I'm sitting on that boat fishing going, oh, well, I just know that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. I didn't know that at first. Like I had to experience that, then, you know, stop, turn around, look and go, oh, it did work out the way it was supposed to work out. And then I can, after a few episodes of that, and AA is how I got through that. Now I can, as I'm looking into it, going, okay, this is going to be okay. And those aren't words anymore. Now it's knowledge. It's like gut knowledge. I know it now. And that's just time and other people in AA. I would never have been able to do this without some serious help from people that I trusted, that I knew were drunks just like me. Because I can't get it from, I don't trust, I'm not sure if I'm trusting all those other people out there. But when I hear the stories of of y'all that are just like me, I go, oh, I can trust this person. This person knows me. So it all comes together.
I like what you said about it's in your gut now. It's just second nature,
Yeah,
you know, and that's what happened to me with the job deal. And Jill, I got to the meeting that Monday night. Jill's like, so what's up? I'm like, hey, I got fired today. She goes, what? She starts freaking out. I'm like, no big deal, you know. And then we're sitting in the meeting and I'm like, it literally was not bothering me. It hasn't bothered me. And I thought I probably need to share about it because maybe somebody's dealing with that, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up doing it, but it was like, it wasn't that big a deal, and it still isn't. So.
Well, and knowing you and being friends with you, I mean, it was totally God doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's been bitching about that job since day.
Man, y'all don't even know.
Yes.
Y'all don't even know, bro.
Hell, if I'd have fired you if I'd known it was driving you that
I was trying to fire myself, you know. Lord.
Self-sabotage.
Man, I'm telling you, it was... Whew.
Well, it was necessary, and I mean, I was happy when you said that.
Me too. And then you know, I went, man, I'm telling you, I went fishing, watched the sun come up. I could hear cars going to work on the interstate, and I was like, I have not fished on a Monday morning at daylight in so long. I was so happy.
Well, and you weren't happy with that job, and if you're not, that means maybe you're not living life on life's terms.
Maybe. And like I said, that's kind of the way.
Look at me.
That's like I said though. That's kind of God's way of getting my attention and going, you're not paying attention here. Like this is not working. So what are we gonna do? You know. And so when you don't do that, you know, he has a way of getting your attention pretty quick.
Right.
Well, Phil F. Sponsored me for a little while, about 6 years, I guess. And he told me one time, you know, and first off, a lot of times I let it go in one and out the other until there's enough pain to motivate me. Does that make, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But and me and Phil used to shoot the breeze a lot, so you never really knew what was what. But he told me one time, he said, you know, if you're miserable in recovery, you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I wasn't miserable. So I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other, right? You know, and thought kind of save it for later whenever I am miserable, you know. But I've heard over the course of recovery, nothing changes if nothing changes, you know, and so may not be miserable one day, may be miserable the next, and whatever's causing that misery, you know, I think it's very important for me anyway. That's why I have a sponsor. You know, and I need to visit with my sponsor. Hey, something's wrong. I'm off kilter. I don't feel right, you know. And I said this before on the show. He has never given me advice. He's just offered up suggestions and said, hey, you know, you tell me, what do you think? And then the truth starts to come out, you know. But it's definitely you couldn't have told me the day I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous, one, that I would still be sober years later. None of that made any sense. I thought maybe it was a, you know, one and done deal. I'd go hang out with these folks, and then I could go back to solving my problems. You know, and you couldn't have told me any other way. I wouldn't have believed you. You know, even though you said it. I've seen some people go through some major tragic stuff in AA, and you know, they show up, they keep showing up and they stay sober. But you couldn't have told me back then. You know, I remember we used to have those acceptance meetings, you know, and I used to think, okay, this is what those folks that have been around forever, this is what they come up with when they don't want to pick a topic. You know, that and gratitude. You know, there's two things they're going to do. They're going to pick a gratitude, or they're going to pick, or the old, you know, what got you here, you know. But, the longer I stay sober, the more meetings I attend, the more I listen to people and see people come in the rooms. And unfortunately, every once in a while, I see them go out. You know, that acceptance thing is, you know, and I'm getting older. You know, I'm damn near 51 now. But as I get older and as I do all this recovery stuff, I see where I can either be miserable or practice some acceptance, you know. And if there is something I can do, nothing's going to change unless I do that, right?
Yeah. Isn't it crazy to look back on your life and realize how long you were not in acceptance? That's just totally, that's unacceptable.
You know what I thought about
now.
in that job situation? Okay, and it's a lot of like manual labor guys working there and that type thing. And you know, we were doing the third step prayer last night and talking about God's will and using us for what He needs to use us for. And we have a ton of guys that get out of treatment that are trying to get back on their feet, and we hire them just constantly, and they roll through. And that job and in that industry, you have a little bit of sobriety, and so these guys are coming in and they're a month out of treatment or whatever, and it almost felt like I was supposed to be there for that. And God was like, I don't think He gives a crap where I work at. You know what I mean? But it was more important with these guys and just being there, and they would find out, oh, you know, or I go to one of the treatment centers, and then I would see them at the treatment center, and they're like, oh, you know, and we would talk. And so there was a few of those guys that kind of, I hope maybe helped them along a little bit. But, you know, and I wonder about that. We were coming to the end of the season. It was slowing down. We weren't having, you know, getting ready to kind of gear down employee wise for the year. And you know, I wonder is that what I was there for, you know, versus what I'm all concerned about, you know, which is my wallet. So
yeah,
a total shift in what God's agenda is.
Yeah, God and I were not on the same page there, you know. So
absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean,
just a mind shift of trying to figure out what God wants instead of what I want. I know what I want. I'm pretty well attuned to that.
And I'm getting up to going, your will, not mine. And then I get fired, and I'm like, yeah, well, son of a gun, you know. And then I look back on it.
Son of a gun.
Well, I don't want to be too bad on here.
Getting a little PG on us.
I mean, You know, when you're in junior high, as long as I was, you learn the English language real good, you know. But yeah, you know, it's funny when we sit back and we look at it and we go, maybe this is what I was actually in there to be doing. And, you know, something I thought was, oh, okay, that's cool that I happen to be here, but that was actually the part I was supposed to be there for.
So I think that happens all the time to us, but isn't it super cool that you can do that now just a few hours afterward? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, that's what I want to be like is when it's happening to me, I want to be looking, going, okay, I know that this is what's supposed to be happening instead of pushing back, you know, and there is where your peace is and where your serenity is when it happens, you can go, okay. And
Here's what's even funnier. I leave that day. I go fishing. I get a call from a friend of mine that it was that afternoon, out of the blue, just totally out of the blue. And for probably the last 2 or 3 years, I've talked with some people about going into that business for myself, doing it on my own. And I've done about everything in the business I'm in that you can do without doing it myself. This guy just calls me, okay, and he never calls me, never has. I've known him 5 years. He said, man, I don't know why I'm supposed to be calling you. Something just told me today, like, what are you waiting on? Why don't you start your own thing instead of, I said, well, I may do that now that I got fired this morning, you know, and he's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I'm literally driving to Ruston. This was on my mind. And he goes, I was thinking about you. And I was like, yeah, well, we'll see, you know, so. But anyway, just things like that all the way along, you know, it's kind of a reassurance of, you know, but I don't care if he wants me to go work at Taco Bell, I'll go work over there. I don't care. I like Taco Bell, you know, so doesn't matter to me. I really
I
don't
wonder
care.
if you get to take any home with you.
I hope so. I really hope
I feel sorry for your children
so.
when you do.
Dude, I would not get a paycheck. That'd
Yeah.
just be,
Yeah, it'd be like a major profit loss.
yes.
Well, you know, I think back to Bill's story, right? And Bill Wilson. And, you know, I don't know if any of y'all have read up on Bill or, you know, read any of the literature about Bill the man, but he had aspirations. He had plans. He had dreams. He wanted to be big timer, right? And it talks, you know, kind of in the beginning about how successful he was and how fortune came flying his way, and he would whirl the big checks in the till, in and out of the till, and then, you know, the guy there looked at him with amused skepticism and all of these things. But Bill's life didn't work out like that. Bill's life never transpired like that. And at some point, he obviously had to learn how to live life on life's terms or practice some acceptance. And we look back now, and he started, this organization that basically has saved my life. You know, I can't speak for anybody else's, and he also, you know, 20th century, he was one of the most influential men of the 20th century in Time Magazine's Top 100. I think Bill made number 98.
Okay.
You know, and I don't know if there was a check that went along with that or if there was the fame, but inadvertently he achieved something that he was trying to achieve and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
His life just didn't turn out the way he thought it should have, or in the beginning how he thought it should be whenever, because you look at, you know, Bill's story just tells a story of, when I look at it, it tells a story of me, and it tells a story of a lot of folks I've come into contact with, not just from the drinking aspect, you know, because we get to watch him progress in his illness and get all the way to where, you know, he has a spiritual awakening. He has some intervention in there with Ebby and the trials and tribulations of the going into that and the things he did. But from a psychological aspect of it, where he grew up an overachiever, baseball player, didn't say that in the big book, but he grew up an overachiever. He wanted to be all these things and be important. He wanted to be important. It turns out, you know, years after his death, we're still talking about him. You know, Bill died in 1971, 2 years before I was born, same year you were born, Jill. So, no, actually, it's Monica. I heard her say it earlier. but he had to learn how to live life on life's terms. I can't imagine staying sober from 1934, 35, all the way to 71 without practicing some form of acceptance or living life on life's terms. What an inspiration. It goes to show me and anybody, that I work with, we just don't know. Don't know. Goes back to that one day at a time thing, man. I just kind of wake up every morning and just do whatever I can do and then just go at it. Just go out there and see what life's going to happen today.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, my life is not at all what I thought it would be. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm not a solid gold dancer, and I have to be okay with that.
Well, I think Solid Gold went off the air a ways back. So
that was my life ambition when I was a child, but things haven't happened.
Soul Train.
Things haven't happened. I mean, you just expect things to happen in life, and what are you going to do with it? Am I going to fight this and be miserable and stay in self-pity because this hasn't happened and I really want it to? Or am I going to accept it and realize everything's happened just the way it's supposed to and be okay with it? I don't have the energy to fight what is anymore or what isn't. And I don't have the mind space for it, but I'm not perfect. And sometimes it does come back to me a little bit. I'm like, okay, it's time to do some work. You're not in acceptance of something. And, thanks to AA, I have the tools and I can call my sponsor and I can pray about it. And, I can help another alcoholic and go to a meeting, do whatever I need to do to get into that point of acceptance and realizing that it's really all good. It may not be
it
what
really is.
It really is.
It's so not what you think it is. I had visions of what I wanted to do when I grew up. Well, what that really was is what I saw, what made other people, what I thought they were happy. What I really wanted was happiness and peace. Now, whether I just saw Solid Gold dancers and thought that was peaceful, I don't know. But, that's what I really wanted. And so, what happens when I never really experienced this, but I'm guessing that when you get all those things and you're still just you with the things, you've got to have something more. And I didn't know that. I kept thinking that the next thing, that's what I need. That's what I need. No, that's not going to do it. And it was I didn't even know. I don't even know how long I would have just been running in that rat race.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long I would have been doing that. But alcohol brought me down pretty damn fast. So there, and then I had some other things that helped too. So that helped bring me down, but I don't know how long I would have been doing that. And I really feel like I would have still been wanting more. And now it's nothing the way I thought it was. But the feeling that I have is what I always had wanted. I just didn't know what that was. And it wasn't really until AA. I mean, I could not have figured this out without AA. I just, I'm somebody that loves to think things through and loves to have an answer and loves to have it written down. I mean, I'm a list maker, but you just have to just trust the process and know that it's going to be okay. And I guess that's the secret of AA.
Yeah. Takes practice. It's definitely a skill.
And the feelings part of it, when you go, oh, this is a rough time. Well, it's going to change. That's what I've learned. It's going to change. The good stuff is going to change. So if I don't ebb and flow with all that anymore. My attitude doesn't reflect good or bad. That's been the biggest thing, is just not operating on how I feel, not letting that translate into every aspect that I touch. And it's you just learn to move through that and just evaluate it, good or bad. So, but yeah. So.
Well, and so as it relates to what we're talking about and the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, You know, it talks in there about each person being the director that wants to run the show. I mean, and that's right there in the steps part of the big book. You know, this isn't a jaywalking story or a salesman for a car firm. You know, this is an actual part of the steps, and it talks about us wanting to be the director, the screen, you know, everything, the screenwriter, everything of our own little show, and kind of drove me crazy as well.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it will.
I think Joe B might have said it one time, but my standard of living was dropping faster than even I could keep up with. Whenever I decided,
Isn't that the truth?
whenever I decided to actually get up off of it and come. And, you know, the first part of any of this, for me anyway, I can only speak for me, is just not drinking. You know, that's a huge part of it, because once I introduce alcohol into my system, well, the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and I've introduced a lot of other stuff into my system as well, spiritually. It don't take long for me to go spiritually bankrupt, morally bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt, all of those things, you know, once I have decided, you know, so I stay sober, and I do those things that I'm supposed to do. I try to do. And here lately, I haven't even been trying real hard to go to meetings, and I really need to get that back on track pretty quick. But, you know, I still wake up every morning and I talk to God. And, you know, it says in step 11, and I know we're nowhere near getting to step 11 yet, but praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And, you know, as these things are introduced into my life, you know, I call them curveballs because it just wasn't expected and these things happen. And, you know, and I pray, one of the hardest things for me to do is just say, thy will be done. You know, because we're talking about some really important stuff. You know, we're not talking about, you know, winning the lottery or, you know, whatever. I'm talking about some really hardcore stuff, and just saying, thy will be done, and then getting up and going out there and doing those things that is my part, you know, the courage to change the things that I can. And sometimes that seems a little more difficult. But it will be really, really difficult. You know, what good would I be to my son and his family if I couldn't learn how to live life on life's terms and just started drinking again? Well, then, you know, then we have more than just one problem. You know, we've got a lot of problems going on. And so, and that wasn't ever even on the table. You know, that was something that we talk about in here or in the rooms of AA, because we need to get it out. We need to talk about it. But then we got to get up and move. I got more action. You know, I got to get into action. I guarantee you, if I left right now and went down to that clubhouse and stuck around for a meeting, there's going to be someone come in there with a whole lot worse going on than me. Mm-hmm. You know?
Absolutely.
And Matt, he'd allowed to run in somebody that lost 2 jobs this week. Yep. You know what I mean? Sure. So he only lost 1, you know. But living life on life's terms is definitely something that they would say. And it used to irk me. Man, it used to irk the shucks out of me. So I'm keeping it PG.
The shucks.
Yeah, it used to irk the crap out of me. People like living life on life's terms. And I remember thinking when I got here, you people.
Y'all don't understand.
Y'all don't realize
Yeah.
you got to get up and change life. You got to, I'm like a Peloton instructor, you know what I mean? You got to get up and do this. You got to get up and do that. And most of them were just perfectly content with what they had. They were perfectly okay because whatever was going on between their ears wasn't going on between mine. Mm-hmm. And then I think I saw a couple of tragedies strike, and I realized, you know, if I would have been in that same mindset and something like that happened, would I handled it like that? Could I handle it like that? What would I do? Would I turn into a tragedy? You know, I mean, so that, but there's a lot of those sayings that used to irk me whenever I first got there.
Oh, all of them did.
You know, we could have one podcast just on the AA slogans, you know, live and let live. And to her point, they all kind of come together, you know, when you when you think about that. But
and at first they were just like the Peanuts teacher. I was like, what? I don't understand.
What kind of crap are these people doing?
And you know, working with other people too. I got a guy right now, and he wants to, you know, job wise, back to his relationship with his lady, all this stuff. He wants to get it back, and he's been sober a week. And I'm like, this is a process, you know. And I know where he's at, and I was in that spot as well. And, you know, it just starts that process of the little bit we can control, let's work on that. And then let all that other stuff just handle itself. You know, it's going to work itself out one way or another. So,
Yeah. I think I set myself, up for failure with the expectations and in early recovery and I've got to make up for lost time. Because that was definitely not the way I wanted it to go. I'm still cleaning up the wreckage of my past.
sure.
Yeah.
I think putting yourself on a timeline, and I'm pretty bad at, I'm about that, about that. Just looking at other people and thinking that I know where I need to be. And, I remember looking at those steps the first time and thinking I can get through that in a week.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Matt did it sitting in the
In
chair.
the lunchroom, in my
In
treatment
5
center.
minutes.
Yes, little did I know that was. Not only do I not want to get through that in a week, but I definitely have my own agenda. There you go. There's
Yeah.
that word, that agenda. Mm-hmm. Oh man.
And me.
I think I just totally skipped 9, 4, and 5. I didn't,
Well, 9 for sure.
yeah. I was waiting on everybody to come make amends to me though.
Yeah.
I had a long list, but
Yeah, he made a list of all the people that owed him amends.
all the people that had harmed me,
And he was willing to track them down to get his apology.
and put it on tape. You may start.
That's
now.
horrible.
Isn't it? Golly,
Yeah.
That's a long. Oh,
Yeah, but like I was saying, the expectations, the self-sabotage, the comparing to other people, because I can't, in early recovery, being in so many meetings and hearing people and their strength and their hope and watching everybody get great jobs and marry, and kids and you're like, why hasn't that happened to me? And I think that just even made me even more. I mean, I wasn't a happy camper in early recovery. I can tell you that much. It took a lot for my ego to say, I'm done. Mm-hmm. It took a lot.
Now look at you.
To just look at you.
look at you, as you like to say.
He's sitting in a room upstairs with a bunch of saddles.
And a couple of whips.
You know what? Life's good.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my goodness.
It is pretty cool though. On that subject, we saw you guys know Hayden. He's been on here before.
Yeah.
We go in yesterday. He got a new job. He's got a new baby that's like a week old.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how something that's just so miraculous for Hayden would be just completely devastating to me?
Or me. Or me. I don't need any babies, bro. Yeah.
No, congratulations to Hayden.
Yeah, he did. He had a little boy. And,
You know the name?
He told me, but I
Okay.
don't remember.
It does have a name.
Yeah, it
Okay.
does have a name. But we went in and saw him yesterday at work and checked on him. And man, I mean, how proud of you are some of these guys, that are just getting on their feet and they're early in this thing and they're doing really good. And it's pretty cool to see that, so.
Page 17 in the big book. You familiar with it, Matt?
You are. I'm going to let you tell me all about it, Mike.
But you just remember page 17?
Mike could be on AA Jeopardy.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, actually, I have it right here on my iPad in front of me.
Oh.
So, page 17, and I want you to think about this. Now, I'm reluctant to go to recovery, but life's bad enough for me to go to recovery, right? Then I don't want to get a sponsor, because that sucks. Who wants to do that? Mm-hmm. And then do I call him every day? What's this guy going to be like? Is he going to tell me what I can and cannot do? But I get one because I have to. And we start reading the big book together because that's, working the steps. For me and my sponsor it was anyway. And we're 17 pages into it. That's it. 17 pages into it. Actually, this isn't, my iPad is wrong. It's page 13. I do know that from memory. But in this part on page 13, Bill says, I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as he would have me. That's 13 pages into what me and this new guy are working on, right? 13 pages into it, I'm learning a new way of living. already. When have I ever done that? When I had a problem, just sit and say, I need the strength and the guidance to get through this, and I'm not going to do anything until. I never could do that before. I'm generally, I was the one who caused the problem, so I'm going to fix it, And then if it was a life problem, like, that we've had come up over, all of us, I had a way to fix that too, and when I couldn't, it wasn't on my agenda. What did I do? I drank. Which, so pound for pound, I didn't solve a single problem that came about. And Bill's telling us right there that he would sit quietly when in doubt. Do y'all still do that? Do you ever have doubt? Do you sit quietly when in doubt?
I think, doubt's a normal human emotion.
I find that I have to pause, or I will say or do something that's inappropriate.
There you go.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
I call.
But
those
society has taught us that you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get up and stand and fight. And I did that for a long, long time, and that was misery.
It is misery.
Like you were saying, pause and ask for strength. That's like the opposite. Like you don't pause, you do. And so it was like counterintuitive to everything that, this world has taught me, or everything that I learned. I don't know what it taught me. It probably was trying to teach me something different. But what I got out of it was you make your own, you better fight. This is the way it's supposed to go. You need to tell these people how to do it.
Yeah.
All of the things that lead to just misery. So, that's totally counterintuitive to what I was thinking.
I like the pause.
Oh, I say abuse the pause.
Is a pause, if it's a month long, is that still a pause? I'm just asking.
It takes what it takes, Matt.
Bobby and I talk about it, and he goes, I give myself 30 seconds. I'm like, I give myself 30 days. I'm not going to say anything because, I have to sometimes or not say anything at all and just go.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've all learned from our mistakes and reacting from emotion and
you know what, and this too, emotional, in the moment stuff.
Nothing good comes out.
No. But you know what I'm real grateful for, and I'm going to throw my brother in this group, and he has nothing to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. But one of the most grounded guys, and he always says, when you need to get someone's attention when you're speaking, just whisper. Don't say anything. Talk real quiet. And he said, because if you do, they have to shut up. They're having to strain to hear you. But I watch these men in the program, and when there's issues with people or whatever, and I've been in a room where there was a resentment thing going on, and I watched these old timers and how they handle that, and I was just like, yeah, if I can deal with it that way, it's totally unemotional. It's there's no emotion in it, and it's it just kind of gives you a great example of how to kind of deal with things and still be able to be around that person and move on.
Yeah.
So,
man, the pause, I could talk all day, about the pause.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man. It has probably saved, I don't know, in 12 years, it's probably saved 100 relationships. And I don't mean romantic. I mean just coworkers, parents, kids. I mean, me and my, I talk about this all the time. My son's in recovery. He's been sober 6 years, right at 6 years. He's 6 years clean and sober. And he's my best friend and my travel companion. And every time I move to a new city, he moves to a new city, and we kind of just follow each other around and help each other out. And we're just alike. I mean, we are like just alike. And me and my mom the same way. Our personalities are just alike. Well, anyway, when I see a conversation, sometimes he'll say something and boom, it just sets me off. Like how heat goes up the back of my neck. And I have learned that I don't have to do anything. He's 26. He's got another 24 years of experience to cover before he can understand my perspective. Maybe he won't. But I have learned just to pause and shut up. And in the past 3 or 4 years, I've learned to just kind of smile on the inside and just go, you know what, it's going to be all right. Just nothing is worth losing my kid because of this, because of me exerting my, and it talks about that in the 4-step and the 12 and 12, where we either overexert our authority or we become too dependent. So there's a comfortable balance for me in there, and in that balance I find in the pause. I just pause. I don't know about a month. That's.
Have you ever? I'll give an example of this.
You're gonna get hungry.
This last job I had, going up to somebody, walking through them, from a good distance, and you just feel the steam. It's just like a train whistle, And I'm like, if I ever get there, I'm just not gonna be able to hold back. And then I just turn and start walking the other way, and just keep walking as far as that's sometimes that level of. And they're staring at you like, why did he just turn around and walk off? He didn't say anything. And I'm going, yes, and I'm going to keep walking. So I may be Forrest Gump walking, when he ran across the United States at this point. But
that was a good movie.
That was a great movie.
It was a long movie.
Yeah, it was.
Matter of fact, I had to pause 3 or 4 times during that movie. Just because of the length of the movie, not because it was upsetting me or anything. Unlike the Star Wars movies where I just had to figure out what the hell's going on.
I still ain't, dude. I watched it when I was a kid, and that's the last Star Wars I watched.
1977, my parents took me to see that movie.
Mine did too. I was just
You're 2?
Yes. It's the first movie I went to. They brought me to it.
And the second was Friday the 13th.
What a great show. What great production.
Horror movies did start pretty early for me.
Yeah, and those movies were made so horribly, and yet for me, they're way better than anything we can come out nowadays. I mean, you could make a better movie with an iPhone and a model.
Remember Superman with Richard Pryor in it, and you could see the strings on Superman while he's flying. It's like, this is great. I was a little kid, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
So, any more examples y'all can think of, life on life's terms?
A million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just come up with one.
And by the way, Monica, what's your sobriety date? Can you give us a
November the 27th of 2003.
Wow.
Wow.
That was the middle of my heyday.
I was thinking that I wasn't going to, maybe a month. Maybe a month. And now I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to.
Isn't that weird how we just totally flip?
It is.
It's
slow and fast.
Yeah, it is. It's slow in the moment, but you look back and go, oh my God,
How could I? Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I would have never thought in a million years this would be my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Kind of to both of y'all's point, but I never knew, especially in my early 30s, late 20s, that when you did have some major events going on in life, some things that really brought you down, right? That there was a group of people that you could turn to. It don't even matter if it's alcohol, right? It's just having a group of people to turn to. I never knew that existed, right? So today, let's just say I'm feeling blah, I don't feel good, or I've got doubts or whatever. There's just so many people out there that I could just turn to and say, hey, this is what's going on. A couple Sundays ago is a good example. But, I was driving in. I have to drive in from Fort Worth whenever we do this. And on my way, and right when I got here, I had another member of Alcoholics Anonymous call me and want to just talk through some stuff. And this is what's going on with me. And, that's better than probably the best counseling I probably have ever had. Just sitting and talking to another alcoholic about whatever. But I never knew that was out there, existed. And in my employment, and I'm not going to say what it is or what I do, but, I have, 400 or 500 people that work for me. And I have directions. If someone comes to me with a problem, no matter whether it's addiction something else going on with them, then I have instructions on this is what you need to do, right? This is who to call, and these are the, we have a number, reach out to this in particular group, right? But a lot of the times I'll hear stuff and I'm thinking, man, isn't it nice that I have a group of people that I can just turn to that'll tell me that's a bad idea. Don't do it now so that we're not having another conversation in a month, right? And that's one thing I really, because you can share just about anything. Matter of fact, you can share anything with the people in there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Coming home at the end of the day, I was married for quite a long time, but there was things that I just didn't feel like my spouse would understand if I came home and talked about, right? She's not going to understand, whether it was the business life or the alcohol part. Just nobody, would understand that. And I get to AA, and everybody seems to understand, because everybody at some point has had some exposure to whatever that is. And at that point, we're kind of talking through it, meditating, just putting it down, and it becomes a lot smaller than what it was when I just kept it up here and, in this little tiny space, big space, I guess.
And come in, and then, I come in there and never been in AA, and come in there and sit down, and these people are just well put together. They seem to have their life together. They've got a lot of sobriety, and then they just talk about the craziest stuff. And I'm like, how did this person, I can't believe they're even talking about this out loud right now. And I'm looking around going, are y'all hearing this? And then you realize, if you sit in there, I went, okay, these are my people right here. I mean, everybody's just so honest about things, and, in the hopes that it helps other people,
Right. So. They're able to share how they live life on life's terms. It gives us that strength and that hope that we can too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think
trust
that's
them.
Right.
I trust them. I know that I can see that they've been through what I've been through.
Sure.
It says that somewhere in the book. I mean, we're people that have been to war and that have come back and oh, I know you. I know. So,
I was having lunch with this lady in the program the other day, and we were talking about that, and I said, it's funny, you can hear the tone of voice and the way people discuss something real bad or traumatic or whatever in there based on kind of their sobriety and where they're at, because they have that I've dealt with it matter of fact tone of voice, or they have the emotional, this is just now happening. But those people that are just like, yeah, and they blurt out whatever, and
then they laugh.
And everybody's laughing. I'm like, hey, did y'all, maybe y'all didn't hear what he said, and I don't know, that was just so refreshing for me to hear that for the first time and be around that kind of stuff. So
2 things I want to read out of this big book.
Read it.
You don't mind, do you?
No.
This is from Into Action, and I like this. And one, it says, more than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. And then on the very next page, it says, we must be entirely honest with someone if we expect to live long and happily in this world. And those are 2 excerpts from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that just kind of reiterate what we've been talking about today. And talk to somebody. It's important to talk to somebody to get it out, no matter how bad or how horrible you think it is. It's very important to get it out and not keep it bottled up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the world's worst about bottling stuff up. I save it. Sometimes I can get off, if I don't go to an AA meeting, I can get off at 5 p.m. and not speak to anyone at all till 7 a.m. the next morning, verbally, not even open my mouth. And I know that's not good for me, right? And so that's important. We must need to talk to somebody. There's always he'll call me, just pick up the phone and call me. I'll talk to you about whatever. But anyway, we're about to wrap it up. What do you think, man? Good show? Another good show?
Glad Monica was here.
Yeah, thank you,
having me,
Monica.
guys.
Hey, we appreciate you being here. We got some shout-outs, but first off, let's shout out to our listeners. And if anybody out there has our email address, send us your, if you're listening, send us your recovery date, and we will celebrate your birthday with you right here on the Grouch and the Brainstorm. But we got Faye and Michelle, Judy, Larry. We got Kim and Rhonda, Chris C., Sheila. I know Sheila listens all the time at the swimming pool for some weird reason. Amy C. from down in Lacombe. And then Judy sent us a text message that says, "Oh, FYI, stay until the miracle happens. Loves it. Love it. Needs to be on a T-shirt." Jane sent us an email that's best song ever, One Day at a Time, and sent me a Joe Walsh link.
That is a good song.
To Joe Walsh singing One Day at a Time. I'm sorry, Joe W. singing One Day at a Time on YouTube. And she also sent me this, and I'm not going to read it, but and hopefully soon we'll have a website we can post a link. But it's the Dr. Bob on his desk had this humility saying, like a whole verse, and she sent me a copy of that. And then she also sent me the definition of laurels. It was a crown made from woven laurel leaves the Romans and the Greeks of the upper class wore to show their stature, which explains, Matt, why your laurel leaf crown you've been wearing. And then we mentioned something about the planets having their spheres as part of a actually we didn't. We mentioned what was it called? Oh, a 24-hour day book reading, and we said something. Ben said something about the planets, and that kind of went over his head. And so Bree sent me a text message, and what he's referring to is the planet having their spheres, which is in Bill's story discussing his grandfather, right? How, so the spheres have their music, or something. I don't go off into misquoting stuff, but she sent us that. Got to remind everyone of our email address, which is BAngieBosier, BOSSIER @gmail.com, BAngieBosier @gmail.com, and the phone number if you want to call and leave a voicemail and want us to play it. You have to let me know if you don't want us to play it, but it's area code 985-377-3816. That's 985-377-3816 and 4816. I'm sorry, and we will definitely play you on the air. We want to send shout outs to our listeners in all of the countries we have listeners. We're down to only 99.2 in America, so we're at 0.8 or in other countries, which the United Kingdom is one, Ireland, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Australia, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. We have listeners in all of those countries.
Pretty
How
cool.
do you get 0.8 of a person spread out over that many countries? That's odd. Just saying.
We also have a loyal listener in Monroe, Louisiana. I'd like to say, what's up, and thank you for listening, Brian S.
Wow. Cool. Monroe. That's its own country in itself.
That is its own country, bro.
That's where I got sober.
Me too.
So that wraps up another episode of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. I want to thank everyone for listening and continue to support us. And signing out for Grouch and the Brainstorm, I'm Mike.